AITA for not wanting to go my BAL wedding where my husband is the best man. My husband, a 29-year-old man, and I, a 24-year-old woman, were married at COVID in 2020, but we have yet to have a real wedding with our friends and family. Our marriage took place after just a little over a year of knowing one another, and when my husband told my, at the time, future BAL, male 36, about it, my BAL indicated that he was putting money aside in order to propose to his now fiancée, female 24, in the traditional fashion. My brother-in-law proposed to me 6 months after we were married, and they are getting married before my husband and I since we have been separated due to our jobs for a short period of time. Due to the fact that we both work long hours in professions that require a great deal of stress and responsibility, we have taken advantage of every holiday and vacation to visit with each other's relatives and family. They didn't create a good first impression on me when I met my BIL and his fiancée for the first time, before they were engaged. I was making an effort to be cordial, but I couldn't shake the feeling that both my BAL and the fiancé were a touch cocky. While I recognize that I'm being judgmental, my husband had warned me ahead of time that his brother could be disagreeable at times, and after meeting them, I understood what he had meant. Furthermore, being an only child, I am unable to comprehend or connect to my husband's and his brother's sibling rivalry. In this case, though, the guy is my husband's brother, and he will serve as best man at their wedding. It is difficult for me not to go because I want to support my husband, who is looking forward to the event, and I don't want to appear selfish, but I don't want to go because I will be meeting more of my in-laws for the first time, and my husband will be doing wedding party stuff, so I will be alone meeting them. My BAL and future SIL have never asked about me or made an effort to include me in any conversations that I have heard, at least with my husband. I, as a recovering alcoholic, I'm worried about upsetting my husband by leaving early, especially because he and my in-laws, whom I just recently met, are heavy drinkers. The fact that I have been working for more than 8 months does not make me any less worried about this occasion. I have a limited amount of vacation days, which may seem to be a disadvantage, but I would like to spend my vacation days doing something more enjoyable than working. I'm well aware that I'm probably the worst person on the planet, but I'm open to any suggestions, mentality adjustments, or anything else it takes to make this event acceptable. Story 2. AITA for checking my blood sugar at my desk when my coworker has a severe blood phobia. I, a 24-year-old man, like my job, and I have 2 coworkers, Megan, a 25-year-old female, and our newest colleague, James, a 23-year-old male. We each have our own office space, but since we are continuously communicating about business throughout the day, we find ourselves at each other's workstations on a regular basis. For me, as a type 1 diabetic, it is necessary to inject insulin and check my blood glucose levels throughout the day as needed. Because I inject insulin via a pump, this is not a concern for me. As soon as I prick my finger to draw blood, the blood is sucked up onto a test strip, which is then connected to a glucose meter, and the meter displays the result. For the most part, the operation takes no more than 10 seconds. When James walked through the door, I was in my office monitoring my blood sugar. As soon as he opened his mouth, his face became white, as if he were about to puke, faint, or both. "Dude, are you feeling all right?" I inquired. He told me that he suffers from a serious phobia of blood and needles, and that he is receiving counseling as a result of this anxiety. When I explained what I was doing and why it was necessary, he exclaimed that it was freaky that I had to make myself bleed multiple times a day, which I thought was hilarious. He said that he never wants to walk in on me measuring my blood sugar again because he is afraid he would pass out from the shock. In my statement, I said that if I'm checking my blood sugar and saw him coming, I may provide a warning, such as "give me a second." He said that merely knowing I'm doing it right before he walks over might frighten him away, and he'd be concerned that I wouldn't hear him stroll over to the other side. I should keep it in the bathroom from now on, according to his instructions. When I stated to him that I didn't believe I should be obliged to do so, and that it was also filthy, he seemed really surprised. Rather than checking my blood sugar all of the time, he suggested that I only check it at certain times, such as 9 in the morning, 12 in the afternoon before eating lunch, and 4 in the afternoon in order for him to know when to stay away from me. Due to the fact that these occurrences cannot always be predicted, I will need to monitor my blood sugar levels regularly to see if they are growing or decreasing in reaction to these events. Even while he accepts that I have diabetes, he nonetheless expresses anxiety about completing a certain need, his blood phobia. He does not want to be obliged to avoid me at work and just speak to Megan out of fear of being seen by me checking for diabetes once again, as he did in the past. He claimed that he would talk with HR about it and notify them that I had declined to enter into a pact with him in the first place. Because of the event which happened last Thursday, just before the holidays, I'm thinking of going to HR before James tomorrow, but I want to be sure I'm going in the proper direction first. Sorry for not being more understanding of James' blood/needle fear, and for not testing my blood sugar levels at my desk as often as was required at that time. Edit. To clarify, unless James is exactly in front of my door, he will not be able to see me while I am testing my blood sugar levels. It is not a shared working environment. I only conduct tests in my place of employment and not in public locations. Update. I'm glad I wrote, since it gave me the reassurance I needed that I was making the proper decision by going to Human Resources. I took your advice on how to approach the HR conversation and used it. I said that my colleague and I had conflicting medical needs and that I could use some help figuring out a solution that would work for both of us at the same time. The Human Resources person said that I was within my rights to continue checking my blood sugar at my place of employment. The moment I explained to her that James had suggested that I only test at certain times of the day, her eyes opened and she gasped, "Oh my God." No, I don't think so. Make no attempt to follow a timeline suggested by a coworker while testing your blood sugar. Only your doctor has access to this information. James was also contacted by HR later on. Here's what we came to with regard to Human Resources. In order for James to come to my office, he is obliged to call me first. For example, if someone says, "Hey, can I come ask a question?" and I say, "Okay," I make sure I'm not measuring my blood sugar at the same time. I have no intention of doing a blood glucose test while James is watching me do it. Besides, I was never intending to do it in the first place. Whenever James's phobia symptoms become active for whatever reason, he is entitled to a 10-minute break in addition to the normal breaks that everyone else is entitled to. For a week, this strategy worked well. However, it eventually ceased operating. It was the same guy who phoned every day, and I told him he could stop by any time, but he didn't arrive. After around 10 minutes, I realized that I needed to check my blood sugar and hoped beyond hope that he happened to stroll into the room at the same time I was checking my blood sugar. As soon as I finally grabbed his attention, he said that he had been sidetracked and had forgotten that he wanted to ask me a question. In the days that followed, it occurred again, and I was irritated that I had to postpone testing once again because I was scared he might walk into my office at any moment. After some investigation, I discovered that James had given his 2-week notice at his prior position. It was acknowledged that it was a factor, even though he said it wasn't the key reason for his leave, citing the fact that he desired alternative hours among other things. A few days later, Megan, another of our staff, informed me that James had expressed concern about my diabetes status. Being able to think about something as simple as, I need to ask a question, but first I need to call and make sure he isn't testing his blood sugar, was uncomfortable for him since it made him feel sick and afraid. James has resigned from his post as a result of the events of September 11th. Even though I'm pleased that I won't have to feel like an outcast at work any longer, I feel sorry for James and his condition. Living with such a big amount of worry must be a miserable experience, and I'm sure he didn't want to be in that scenario at all. His improvement is encouraging, and I hope he continues to see his therapist and make progress. So it seems that there will not be a happy ending after all, since we were unable to reach an agreement and he resigned.